everyone. This is Councilmember Meeka Owens. Thanks so much for being with me, and I hope to have your support. Born and raised in North Avondale, where I raised my son as a single mom, let me tell you, every time I walk into City Hall, I am looking at it from a lens of my lived experience, rooted in equity and systems change and impact. And so your support means everything in getting Cincinnati to a brighter future. When I'm not in City Hall, I love to lead my dance ministry at church and stay very active in other spaces in the community. Thank you. You know, one of the best things we can do is support officer training, because when officers show up to community events, sometimes it's a non-law enforcement response that's needed. And so it's absolutely necessary that as a decision maker about the city's budget, that we support the programs that are working, like ABLE and EPIC, and making sure that officers have the support that they need when they're showing up to responses that are mental health responses or addiction, substance abuse responses. And so making sure that they are, accompanied with social workers and mental health workers. These are all the pieces that are going to help reduce use of force, as well as promote positive interactions and outcomes that officers have in the community every single day. And there's certainly a justice component to this as well. Again, these are issues that we should not be criminalizing, but providing the infrastructure for people to get to the support that they need. So these are the investments that I would continue to make. I would also make sure that we are looking at the accountability and the success of these programs and these interventions so that we can continue to invest in them. And so making sure we're looking at the data. And that's how I would continue to support officers and the community at large through these programs. The collaborative agreement is such a bedrock of community policing in our city, which one of the core tenets of that is the Citizens Complaint Authority. So in order to support both of these things, one, we have to be rooted and accountable to the essence and the principles of the collaborative agreement, which is community-oriented policing and problem solving. So one, let's make sure we're investing in the Citizens Complaint Authority and making sure that we're engaging with the community and even understanding why this agency exists, making sure that we're giving it the resources that it needs to be effective and efficient. And I think another thing that we do is making sure that we are looking at the data differently as well. Because ultimately what we want to see is less use of force and positive interactions. And so, for example, if the number one complaint at the Citizens Complaint Authority is discourteous officer behavior, let's incentivize what positive behavior looks like. Let's add that to the data. And let's support that. Again, accountable to the principles, making sure the Citizens Complaint Authority is fully funded, and being committed to looking at data differently and supporting officers to have the best positive interactions with other human beings. These are important values to Cincinnati. A healthy community is my top priority in Cincinnati, which was why it was so important that on day one, I introduced a resolution declaring gun violence as a public health crisis, supported unanimously by all of my colleagues as well as the mayor, because I knew that we had to look at this issue differently. It had to be more holistic. It had to have an upstream approach, intervention to it, root cause analysis, and again, systemic change, which ultimately means neighborhoods have to look differently, which means we need to invest in people and places. We've invested in people with our city's budget by adding $1 million for our Career Pathways program being led from the city manager's office, giving young people the opportunity to have access to careers in public service. Investing in places means that we need to support the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and making sure we're adding to that so that we can see those developments happen in Cincinnati. And it also means that we're protecting tenants through the Tenant Bill of Rights work that we're leading at our city, out of my office, meaning that we are making sure we are codifying at the local level laws that will help to protect renters. This also means that we get to build an environment that is based on access to public transportation, where you don't have to have the dependency of a car, because it's not only a climate issue, but it's an equity and access issue, which ultimately means that people are being able to access mass transit easily, use other means of transportation, so building out a multimodal city where you can access bike infrastructure and shared use path infrastructure, while you can get to the amenities that you need: food, housing, education, jobs, healthcare, all of the pieces that really build a holistic future. And again, that means we're investing in young people, We're investing in the places where families are living. And we're also bringing others along with us because collaboration does matter in getting to issues that affect all of us. And these are things that are my top priorities at City Hall. Investing in young people means that we are being intentional about creating a stronger, safer, healthier Cincinnati. As a city, we can direct our budget resources to programs that are going to do just that. That is why we invested $1 million into Career Pathways, which is being led out of the city manager's office, giving young people access to not only fire and police through the rec center, but other jobs that are good public service jobs at the city. Again, exposure is important. Other ways that we've been supportive of investing in young people is through our Human Services Fund. Over $17 million that we spend in that sector. And so it was important for me to make sure that we reprioritize around things, and one of those priorities being youth violence prevention. So because we got prescriptive with that as a priority, we were able to fund organizations that can demonstrate evidence-based approaches to disrupting youth violence through mentorship and mental health. We actually funded 15 new organizations and programs in this last funding cycle as a result of being intentional. And then finally, as a city, we can be a convener in building a stronger workforce development infrastructure. So when we're talking about trade skill and labor, we need to be at the table with our unions and making sure we are building those pipelines. So right at the table with our unions, talking about building our futures so that we are supporting young people moving into middle class opportunities and living wages. And so that means as a city, we have to make sure that we are ready to provide those opportunities once folks are coming out of those apprenticeships. So again, this is the way that we build a greater Cincinnati when we are investing in young people, which ultimately means we have safer, healthier communities for all of us. And this is a top priority for me. Thank you. I am City Councilwoman Meeka Owens, and if you're like me, you love Cincinnati. There's more work for all of us to do. And when I walk into City Hall, I am always thinking about systems change and impact and dismantling systemic racism and working from a true framework of equity. We've got work to do. And so I need your support to get there. And representation matters. Lived experience matters. Remember, vote for Meeka Owens for re-election in November. Thank you.